This is Anthony Schreiber, the original vehicle hunter here, back with another edition of Driveway Confidential. Um, Today I have to talk about the experience I just had when I went to trade in a car. So I have a Toyota minivan, 2015 Toyota Sienna minivan, and about 170,000 miles on it. I recently put a lift on it and some oversized tires, and I think I went too big on the tires. So I was having issues with the transmission. And I started to get worried about the van. I didn't know how long it was going to last. I didn't want to sell it to somebody else and let it be their problem. So I said, I'm going to have to trade this thing in and let it be a dealer's problem. So I went online. I had an offer for $12,150, an online offer from Sheehy Toyota. And now you figure with an online offer, once they get you in there, they're going to look at your car and say, well, this has a nick and this has a scrape. Even though I filled all that out in their survey about my car's condition. But I figured once I get there, they're going to try and talk me down a little bit. So I drove over to Sheehy Toyota, and while I'm pulling in, right next door to Sheehy Toyota is CarMax. So I say, well, let me just get a quote from CarMax real quick before I go over to the Toyota dealer. So I get a quote from CarMax, and CarMax gives me a quote of $7,500 to buy my car. So I say, okay, now equipped with that, I head over to Sheehy Toyota. So the gentleman takes my car around the back, and they do their inspection, and he comes back and he offers me $7,600. And I say, well, I've got this, quote from $12,000. I understand there might be a little discrepancy, but a $5,000 discrepancy is crazy. And he goes, $7,600 isn't bad. I mean, it's $100 more than what CarMax offered you. Now, I didn't show him what CarMax offered me. Come to find out, he has a system that they know the offer you got from CarMax. So they just put a little tiny bit on top. I had no idea that they were that linked in. And it's crazy because you think you have some more negotiating power than you do, but you really don't. I have no idea why CarMax shares the information with other people in the same business as them unless they're getting paid to do it. So while I was there waiting for that, I went online and I looked at Carvana, and I got a low offer around $5,000 from Carvana. And apparently Vroom is no longer in business. They would make people crazy offers, and then when they got to your house to pick up the car, they'd lowball you and try to write you a check for a lot less. So now they're not even in that business anymore, or at least that's what I was told. I went online, I got a quote from a company called We Buy Used Cars, and they gave me an online estimate of $8,000. And then I went to another shop that set up shop right across from CarMax. And when you're coming out of CarMax, they have people holding postcards like, come see us, we'll give you a better deal. So I went to see them, and they gave me an offer of $8,000. And they also knew what CarMax had offered me. So I realized I had very little leverage. So I wound up lying and telling one company that somebody offered me $8,500, but I didn't like the person I was dealing with. They were being rude, but I'd rather do business with you. Will you match the $8,500? And unfortunately, I didn't have time to wait. But the next day, they sent me an email that said, yes, in fact, they would match the offer. But I had already spent, 4 to 6 hours of my life trying to deal with getting rid of this van. I don't need the $500 bad enough to turn selling my car into a 2-day process. So I had taken the $8,000 from We Buy Used Cars, and it was a pretty decent process. They sent the money to my account via Zelle right away. Actually, it's called We Buy Any Car. So I had the money in my bank account before I left the store, as opposed to walking away with a draft check that then they might put a hold on or something like that. But the moral of the story is, or at least my big takeaway is, this is crazy. When you go to trade in a car, the deck is stacked against you. They're all communicating with each other. They know what somebody else has offered. And normally, I'm never, when I have to go buy a car or I go to look at a car and somebody's like, how much will you give me for it? And then I'll check with my, other people, see what they'll give me. I don't want to tell them, because I know that the next person will just tack $100 on top or something, and then they'll be the best offer. These people are sharing information so that the consumer is caught behind the 8 ball. You might leave a lot of money on the table just because these folks are communicating way more than you would think they are, right? Because if you go to CarMax and they say $7,500, you go to Toyota, they say $7,550, you go to another spot, they say $7,700. You've got 3 competing estimates. They've just convinced you that that's all your car is worth. You could be leaving $5,000 on the table. Most people don't want to private sell a car, because then you have strangers showing up at your house, kicking your tires, trying to offer you low prices. But if you don't sell your car yourself, you're probably going to leave a lot of money on the table. But just, I wanted this video to let people know the car dealers have a lot more information than you might imagine. If they're sharing and getting the information from CarMax, and that is readily available, you don't have secrecy on your side. So anyway, it was just interesting. Thought I'd share that. Selling a used car by yourself is a pain in the neck, but sometimes it's worth a couple of extra $1,000s to do it. So you just do a cost versus benefit analysis. Do I need this extra money enough to deal with the headache? And your answer will decide what you do from there. Over and out.